What's up guys, Humphrey here. So I made today's video to give you guys some major tips on the best financial strategies as well as milestones to hit depending on how much money you're bringing in. We'll have 3 different buckets of income that we're going to be talking about today. So whether you make 40K per year, 75K per year, or 100K and above, we have something for you. And the main reason I made this video is that the strategies that you might employ at the $40,000 salary level are going to be different than say if you make $150,000 or more. So let's get right into it and let's talk about some strategies if you make around $40,000 per year. When I first graduated college, my starting salary was $38,000 working a customer service job at a video game company, and I remember this time being quite difficult, but still somewhat possible. I think when you're at this salary level, I think it's important to acknowledge that you can make life work, and while it is difficult, it's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, I respect anybody that can make a $40,000 salary as well as make life work, because out of all the income levels that we're going to be talking about today, this is the level where the finances matter the most. That's because every single dollar is way more important at this income level. When you're at this level, if you're able to save 10% of your gross income towards your other goals, I think this is going to be really key. And I think there are 3 major goals that we really want to accomplish at this income level. And the first is not having any consumer debt or any BNPL or buy now, pay later debt. Now, having any sort of consumer debt at any income level is going to really suck, but at the $40,000 salary range, every dollar matters a lot more. So having consumer debt, let's say with an interest rate of 10%, is really going to compound your problems. The average take-home pay of someone making $40,000 gross per year is about $2,700 in take-home per month. And that $2,700 needs to cover your rent, your groceries, your transportation, and ideally some savings and investments. So even an extra $100 per month in credit card interest could be the difference between you making rent or not, or you being able to save for retirement or not. The average savings rate in America right now is a dismal 3.8%, and the average credit card balance in America varies by age, but generally the average is about $5,700. So I think one of the first strategies of this $40,000 income level is to try to clear off this debt. And if you're able to save, let's say 7.5% or even 10% of your gross income and put it towards your debt, this is going to be really helpful. Once you've done that, the second goal is to kind of set up your financial foundation. So have your emergency fund set up, start investing in your Roth IRA, and start looking at other types of investments. I'm sure if you've watched my channel before, you know the importance of having at least a 3-month emergency fund, as well as starting to contribute to a Roth IRA where your earnings are going to grow tax-free. The strategy here is that if you don't have any emergency fund at all, you want to save that 7 to 10% from step 1 or goal number 1 of this income bracket and put it towards that. So ideally you have 3 months of an emergency fund set up before you start investing in a Roth IRA. And so that means if your take-home pay is about $2,700 a month, and let's say you spend $2,000 a month on your expenses, you want to have at least a $6,000 emergency fund saved up. After that, you can start putting some of your paycheck into a Roth IRA, and the contribution limits for that right now under the age of 50 are $7,000 a year, and over the age of 50 it's about $8,000 per year. Now some of you might find that saving 10% of your gross income is actually quite difficult, and if it is, just wait till the next section where I talk about budgeting and tracking your expenses. So quick message from today's sponsor. One of the issues that I faced when I was making about $40,000 per year before I started tracking my expenses was actually keeping track of subscriptions. I genuinely would forget that I signed up for subscriptions through different mobile apps, and when I began my expense tracking journey, I was shocked to find out at how much money was going towards apps I didn't even use anymore. And trust me, $10 per app every month adds up. That's where the sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money, can really help, and by signing up for Rocket Money, you can actually cancel a membership right through their app. They ask for a bit of personal information so that they can cancel it on your behalf, and they usually take a few days, but they can cancel unwanted subscriptions with just a tap. Now, I'm pretty good with my finances, admittedly, but I personally use it these days to keep tabs on all of my subscriptions to make sure I never run into a situation where I'm paying for something I'm not using. You can also use Rocket Money to automatically monitor your spending by category and get notifications whenever you've exceeded your limits. So since I eat out a lot, I could do this with restaurants and get notified and alerted whenever I'm going too hard on sushi. Rocket Money has helped save its customers up to $740 per year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Go to rocketmoney.com/Humphrey or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with premium, and once again, that's rocketmoney.com/Humphrey to get started for free, and thanks to them for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now let's talk about the third goal at the $40,000 level, which is that we should start looking for ways to make a little bit of extra money. Now you don't have to go out and get an entirely new career or even switch jobs. jobs, but if you're able to make some extra money on the side doing what you already know, or perhaps investing in yourself to learn a new skill, that could be well worth it. A good way to think about this is that if you make $40,000 per year, that is the equivalent of about $20 per hour, given the fact that there are about 2,000 hours in a work year. So if you're able to find a side hustle that pays at least $20 per hour, or sometimes even $30 or $35 per hour, then your time is going to be very efficient and actually you're making more money for your time. If you're having trouble thinking about the different ways that you can earn more money, my favorite way to think about this is like, think about all the knowledge that you know that you can trade to others. So let's pretend you're good at the guitar. Perhaps you've been playing since you were a kid, or maybe been in some bands. You can start to trade this knowledge that you have to others for hopefully a higher hourly rate than what you were getting paid in your day job. If you don't want to pick up a new skill or a side hustle, I completely understand, but if you have an occupation already, what you can do is actually pursue a certification or a credential that can instantly boost your salary. So Monster.com launched a report that outlined the top 10 certifications in all industries, and for example right here, if you worked in the logistics and transportation industry, you could become a certified automotive fleet manager. And the median pay of someone not holding this certification is $55,000 a year, versus if you had the certification, you can start making upwards of $70,000 per year. So that is another option. Look around in your industry and see what types of credentials or certifications can actually boost your salary. Okay, so that brings us to the next income bracket in this video, which is the $75,000 level. This is the median income of a household in America. Things here actually start to change up quite a bit. You can see here that the take-home pay of $75,000 a year is going to be right around $55,826. That comes out to $4,652 per month, which actually gives us a little bit more room to work with. The biggest things that you can do at this income bracket are the following. First, if you haven't already done so, make sure your highest interest rate debts are paid off, like we mentioned earlier in the $40,000 bracket. Then after that is taken care of, it's time to start thinking more longer term to start targeting financial freedom. In order to do that, I actually have 3 strategies for you guys for this income level, but they're not actually exclusive just to this income level, but I do think that they fit in this income level appropriately. The first is going to be budgeting and tracking our expenses, and basically what we want to do here is build out a really good habit for tracking how much money is coming in versus how much is going out, and what of the money that is going out, what we're actually spending it on. This is going to be especially important if we have a family, because now we have more people in our household that we need to keep track of, and therefore the expenses are going to be quite variable. Once you figure out how much you're spending on every single category, we want to cut relentlessly all the things that we are spending money on that are actually not fulfilling us or driving us forward. So for example, let's pretend that you go through the exercise of tracking all of your spending and you realize, hey, maybe I spend a little bit too much money on shopping.
So your total comes to $8,432.37.
Don't worry about that. You got
Perhaps you're an impulse shopper that every time you go to the mall, you like to buy something new. Well, instead, what you can do to curb this behavior is, like, the next time you go to the mall, try to put that item that you really want to buy on hold for 24 hours. Then if you still want it after 24 hours, you can go back to the shop and actually get it. But what I actually find is that when we think deeper about our own decisions and our own purchases, what we actually might find is that we don't actually need a lot of the things that we buy. Another way to cut back on a certain category is to set yourself a firm budget. So let's say it's $200 per month on shopping, and then put that actually in cash in an envelope. Now you know that the maximum that you can spend in that category is the $200 in the envelope. Every time you go and actually spend, you physically see the money leaving your envelope, and that actually hurts psychologically a lot more. The number 2 strategy at this income level is to actually start tracking your net worth, your savings, and your investing rates. Just like dieting or going to the gym, if you start tracking what you eat and how much weight you're actually lifting, you have more awareness about how healthy you are in the gym, and the same goes with finances. So here's a table of the median net worth in America by age by Empower, the retirement company, and how much you should have saved based on a Fidelity study. So this table is really interesting because if we look at the median net worth by age for everybody here, they kind of seem a little bit on the low end. If you watch my channel regularly, you're likely taking steps to improve your overall financial health. So I think a good objective or a good goal for us viewers to have on this channel is to at least aim for double the median net worth in America. If we look at Fidelity's guidelines and how much money you should have saved for retirement, their their suggestions are way above the median net worth, and so that's kind of why I said that we should probably also aim for double as well. Now, to illustrate this point further, the median net worth of someone in their 30s here is $34,691, but according to Fidelity, by the time you are 30, you should have at least 1x your salary saved for retirement. So if you make $75K a year, that means by the time you are 30, you should have $75,000 saved in your retirement as well as your taxable brokerage accounts combined together. You can see that by the time you're the age of 40, you should have at least 3x your salary saved. So at a $75,000 income range, that's going to be $225,000. I think what this Fidelity study just really emphasizes to me is that if you want to retire comfortably, we need to actually be really shooting for a higher net worth than what the median is in America. All right, my third strategy for this income bracket kind of ties into the previous one, which is that we need to really target a savings rate that will get us to a comfortable retirement. Now, depending on your age, this savings rate is going to differ quite a lot, and depending on how much you have saved already, it also differs a lot as well. If you've been saving 10% of your gross income every single year since the age of 21, you're likely in a very good financial position. However, if you're the age of 40 and you have nothing saved for retirement, then your target savings rate needs to be a lot higher than the 21-year-old counterpart that we just talked about. So let's take a look at someone making $75,000 per year and 3 hypothetical situations where they have $0 saved. Fidelity recommends that by the time you're the age of 67, you have 10x your salary saved, so we're gonna go with $750,000 in today's example. If you're the age of 30 with $0 saved, you need to start saving and investing at least 4.6% of your income every single year in order to have a balance of $750,000 by the time you're 67. Now, at the age of 40, that goes up to a 10.67% savings rate, or you need to save about $8,000 per year. And if you wait 10 years longer after that, if you're the age of 50 and you have nothing saved at all, then you actually need to save 27.4% of your gross income at $75,000 per year in order to retire with $750,000. You can see that with more time, you can actually get away with a lower savings rate, but the older and older that you get, you actually have to play a lot of catch up. That's why starting from a young age is so important and being consistent with it every single year. And if you're able to save 10%, 15%, maybe even upwards of 20%, then you're gonna be in a really good financial position. One of the ways to hit these Fidelity suggested savings numbers on autopilot basically is to contribute to your Roth IRA and try to max it out every single year. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the video, but if you're able to compound $7,000 per year in a Roth IRA, which means all the gains are tax-free, then you're gonna be pretty much on autopilot to become a millionaire by the time you're 67. I have so many videos about the Roth IRA that I will link down below in the description as well. All right, we've made it to the $100,000 income level and above, and if you are at this level, you're likely comfortable in most cost of living cities. Your bills are taken care of, and you probably aren't living paycheck to paycheck, and even in the highest cost of living cities, you can still make $100,000 per year salary work. At this stage, I think the first thing that we need to really pay attention to is lifestyle creep or lifestyle inflation. Every time you get a pay raise above $100,000, you're likely gonna have way more disposable income, and what do people like to do with more disposable income? They like to buy things to improve their quality of life. I'm all for doing that to an extent, but just because now you can afford a nicer car, nicer house, or even nicer clothes, it doesn't mean that you should do so even if you can afford it. Living under your means is not only a really great way to accumulate wealth, but it's also a great way to keep your peace of mind and freedom when it comes to money. The idea here is that if you start increasing your costs on an everyday basis or every month basis, it's going to start adding a lot more stress into your life, and that stress is pretty much unnecessary. So if you are making more money, for example, and you actually want to buy, like, let's say a new car, I think that's actually reasonably fine as long as it's still within your budget. A popular car buying rule is the 24-10 rule. That's where you can put 20% down on a car, finance the car for no more than 4 years, and your monthly payments on the car should not be more than 10% of your gross monthly income. So if you currently have a car with a car payment that takes up 5% of your gross monthly income, I see no problem in trying to improve your lifestyle as long as the new car payment is less than 10% of your gross monthly income. That way, it's still a purchase within reason, and you're not, stepping out of your means entirely just to afford a brand new car. The lifestyle inflation I'm referring to is those that spend way too much on a certain category to the point where they start living paycheck to paycheck again. All right, the number 2 strategy that we really want to figure out at the $100,000 salary level is to start targeting our financial independence number. There's a possibility that you will be able to retire early if you start making a really good income, as long as you have a really good savings rate, and so we want to figure out what steps we need to take in order to get there. So here's a great resource from from networthify.com. That's where you can plug in your income and your savings rate to see how quickly you can retire. If you have a portfolio value of $250,000, you make $100,000 per year, and you save 20% of your income, you could retire in 19.5 years. Now, if your savings rate was 30%, you could possibly do it in 15.9 years. This is the primary strategy of the FIRE community, and that's a community of people that are trying to retire as early as possible. Their main plan is usually to aim to save at least 30, 50, or even 70% of their income. By being extremely frugal and essentially sacrificing their short-term pleasure, they're trying to get to their financial independence number as quickly as possible. Now, do you have to do this? I would argue probably not, but it might be a lifestyle you may want to go after, especially if you start to make more income. The third strategy at the $100,000 income level is to really start thinking about how can we get more gains from our investments across the board. This is going to be a little bit of a hot take and not the usual buy index fund strategy that we usually talk about on this channel. But when you start making more of an income, let's say you make 150K, 200K, maybe 300K and even more, that's when you can start to take some shots at higher conviction plays to try to grow your investment count as quickly as possible. Now, a huge disclaimer, this will come with a lot more risk, but also a lot more potential upside. And for 95% of people out there, this strategy is not for them, but this is what I would do if you already make a lot of money. I'd first decide how much percentage of my total portfolio that I'm willing to risk into higher, riskier plays. Maybe you decide that's 5%, 7%, or maybe 10% of your portfolio that you go ahead and risk and put it into some sort of higher conviction play, because the more concentrated you go into one position that actually does really well, then the more you're gonna make. There are real estate investment syndicates out there. You could also put that money into a certain company or a stock that you have higher conviction in, or you can just put it all on black. Just kidding about the black on roulette, do not do that, but you get the idea. Some of my biggest gains in my portfolio are from owning such stocks or funds that I've had higher conviction in. For example, Nvidia as of late, Metastock, and even Bitcoin has been doing really well this year. For some of my friends, that is their real estate investments that have done really well for them in the past 5 years. This strategy definitely depends on your own risk tolerance, how much you can afford to lose when it doesn't work out, and the research that you ultimately do. When it comes to higher conviction plays, you need to have some sort of competitive edge when it comes to the knowledge that you might have about the certain industry that you're trying to invest in or the certain product that you're looking at. Ideally, when it comes to investing like this, you have that specific knowledge about whatever you're investing into. So that means if you're in semiconductors, probably don't invest in the retail sector. That's what you want to look for, which are the intersections of your knowledge and the investments that you can identify that other people can't. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Thanks again to Rocket Money for sponsoring a portion of this video. Check out my next video right here on what net worth it takes to be upper class, middle class, or lower class with data. I think you would really enjoy that video if you enjoyed this one. All right, guys, I will see you in that video or the next one on my channel. Thank you.